Hello. Assetto Corsa. Need I say more? I think I do. This is called the talk and drive, and all the talking I'm gonna do are 2 words. It's not really talking, really, is it? You may notice it doesn't look very attractive here, because I turned everything off and then I went in search for all the INI files and turned more stuff off. I've got 16 pixel mirrors now, I think. So it's all a bit low detail. My PC isn't the newest, and all I needed to do is run rFactor triple screen, and rFactor isn't as demanding as this, which is very obvious. This is a bit more advanced graphics, of course, looks much better. But then again, I'm such a guy, give me a DirectX 7 game and I'll play it. I don't really care for the graphics that much. So this isn't a review. I won't give sort of definitive opinions, just some talking and driving. And let's first go back in time, a long time ago, when Netkar first came out. And I'm not talking Netkar Pro, I'm talking the original Netkar. It's an early version. And then it became Namey, I think. And I played that quite a lot. I think this was 2002, something, 3 perhaps, 4? Don't know, something in that domain. I really quite liked it, and I got to know Aris, the physics guy. And we share quite a lot in our philosophy of that many simulators, many games are too difficult, and that quite a few sim racers seem to think that it must be difficult, otherwise it's not realistic, whereas we feel it's not difficult, it shouldn't be difficult to drive a car. Unless you're talking and driving. So, just like me, Aris also wants cars to have handling at the limit and beyond the limit. And that's why I always quite liked Netkar, the original Netkar. And I remember I worked in a computer store and we had a few display screens, and I brought Netkar with me and to sort of loop a replay of some laps that I did in the... It came with an old Ferrari road car from the 60s, I believe. Sorry that I don't know the type, 250, I don't know, something like that. And I once did a lap drifting, which power sliding, but a bit with a twist. I did it on the grass, so on the outside of the track I was going very sideways on the grass in the historic Ferrari, which was a good sign that Netkar allowed you to drive the car over the limit, which was quite cool. And of course, over the years I started modding a bit more, and Aris went, of course, to do mainly the Power and Glory mod. And I wouldn't say we don't speak that frequently, but we're friendly with each other, and every now and then, a couple of times a year, we exchange views on physics and simulators and all that stuff. So I was looking forward to Assetto Corsa, and some while ago the first demo came out, and I could drive it quite nicely, but I was way too slow for some reason. Had some difficulty to connect, but now I've really driven this 458 a couple of hours, and I quite enjoy it. I even managed to do a 54.9 with the street tires. I won't repeat that now, I think. It's very early days for me. I'm so used to rFactor, of course. It's always difficult to, or not necessarily difficult, but it's easy to have your judgment in 1 hour. Whereas it takes a lot more time to really get used to the simulator and stuff like that. So this is the only car I tried, because I really think it's best to focus on one car and get a good feel for that, rather than just trying all the cars and tracks in 1 hour and then not really being good at any of them. But I think it's a testimony that I've played this for a couple of hours now and I enjoy it and I still like it. But it's so difficult now to make proper conclusions. It's too early. So sorry if I'm not doing that. You got differences everywhere, because I made a short video with input lag. Well, you can see now it's not half as much. I've kept the frame rate to 60. So it's smoother because it's somewhat of a V-Sync type synchronization. It appears smoother to me, more fluid. And the lag is something that most people won't notice. I still think it's a tiny bit more than rFactor, but to be honest, in rFactor I also get a bit more lag if I run at 60 frames compared to 120. So this is very acceptable, it seems. And boy, this Imola, for the first time driving Imola the way it actually is, makes such a big difference. So top job on the scanning and the circuit. It really looks nice. And I mean looks nice not from the graphics, because I turned them all down. It still looks fine, but just the feel of the road and how fluid all the banking transitions and elevation changes are. That's something that's really hard to get right, especially if you do tracks in like in rFactor or anything that's just made from scratch. Getting a fluid flow of the road. Sometimes the elevation comes in steps or suddenly, or the banking transitions are strange, or the banking falls off too soon and you get understeer or oversteer out of a corner. The accuracy of the circuit is so important. It affects the physics, of course. It's very logical, but it certainly does. Such as here, there is just a little bit of banking on the beginning. It falls off a bit. It's very natural feeling. There isn't a good version for rFactor. So that just completes the package. And I also like the bumpiness, although I think with a G25 you may not feel it, but with the sim steering wheel there is just a slight sort of road noise. You feel small bumps, which I think is easy to overdo. This just feels very, very nice. And I'm very critical to physics, because that's what I do. Because if you don't know what I do, I'm sort of a weird guy. Gee, really. But I was never happy with simulators and their realism. And I thought I could do better. And it was 6 or 7 years ago. And I started modding rFactor. Quickly realized that it's not just an easy job, and I saw a lot of people using Notepad to change the physics files. And of course you can change the parameters, but you have no overview of what they all do, and it's pretty complex. So I went on a sort of a long process trying to figure out how the physics engine worked, and then making tools like spreadsheets that allow me to create content for physics for rFactor, which is a more methodic way than most people use. And in the end I got something that, you know, you can make rFactor handle really nicely. And if you tried Game Stocker, for example, I worked on that, and there are some mods you can download for rFactor, such as the Toyota Supra, the Corvette. I did some work on the Historics mod, although that's not completely what I did. There are some examples. But what that means for me is that I sort of moved from playing the simulators to sort of being more of a vehicle creator guy, the physics guy. So I haven't really played many simulators over the years. I've given some a try and never really liked them, which isn't to say that these simulators are all bad per se, but my enjoyment isn't so much from playing other simulators. It comes more from creating the cars, and it's very satisfying when you spend years and years on those tools and now you can make a car and it works believably. So that's my enjoyment in sim racing, far more than actually racing or trying other games as I go slower each lap. So when I say that I don't play other games, it's not sort of an arrogant thing of thinking they all suck, but it's not my enjoyment so much. With Assetto Corsa it's a little different because of two things: that I know Aris, as I said, and I know his philosophy on car handling is the same as mine. And it was of course a bit hyped. Hype is always something that's a bit dangerous, because before you know it you expect too much. But it's also moddable, and at some point I would of course like to try rFactor 2 a bit better, if I understand it better. And Assetto Corsa, they're candidates for my future selfish enjoyment of creating cars, and perhaps releasing some or you know. So I had to give this a go, and normally when I try other games I try it for half an hour and I get annoyed again, just like I was 7 years ago before I started to do physics modding, because the cars, they don't do anything that I think they should do. And even if I'm wrong or right, it doesn't matter, it just doesn't give me any enjoyment. And obviously Assetto Corsa is pretty good already out of the box at this state. I really enjoy driving it. There are some things that I'm not sure of yet. As said, this is not a review, this is nothing definite, but it's becoming difficult now, because with some games it's obvious, or at least to me it's obvious, that they aren't made with the philosophy that Aris and I have, drivable cars at the limit, and that's something I can disagree with, and with enough cockiness that I think I'm likely to be right. But with Assetto Corsa, it's obvious that the cars are drivable, and then I'm not so sure about the differences between this and what I would make in rFactor, for example, which is also a very drivable 458 that I would make. And then it's the differences. What are the differences? Well, there are certainly differences, but where do they come from? It's really difficult, because you're dealing with a different physics engine, and even though we share the philosophy, the parameters will be different. Already discussed some stuff with Aris, and there are some differences compared to a Ferrari that I would make. Gee, I'm really slow now. Talking more, driving less. So you have different parameters, different physics engine, different circuit, different force feedback. It's it's almost impossible to do a one-on-one comparison. So I think when the full version is out, I will just have to make a car in rFactor and copy it as much as possible with the main weights and inertias and stuff to Assetto Corsa, and then there's more of a comparison possible. For now I noticed that the throttle doesn't respond. It's a known thing. The first 40% or so of the throttle doesn't work. I've got a little trick for that on the Assetto Corsa forums. You can use DI-View to calibrate the first half of the throttle to use just a tiny bit of throttle travel. So the last half of actual throttle is using more pedal. That works a lot better. Because the brakes are quite touchy, making it easy to brake too hard, and you have to be a bit smooth. Force feedback I have to optimize yet. It works kind of fine, but with rFactor I can really I can really rely on the force feedback to snap, to deal with the oversteer almost. And also when the oversteer, sort of when you back out of a slide, when it straightens out, it will snap sort of the steering wheel back straight. And here it feels very laggy. If I rely on the force feedback, I will make a big tank slapper. But that's something I don't know yet if that's tweakable with settings and damping. Overall it feels a little disconnected in the force feedback. I really like the road noise, like I said, that you feel. And when you get some understeer, you feel some tire scrubbing stuff, which is kind of neat. But like I cannot slide it as much. If I try to slide it, you will see sort of a couple of left-right wiggles. So that's something I'm not quite used to yet, and I'm not sure the force feedback is helping me as much. See, I backed off the slide there myself. The force feedback wouldn't have helped me there. Not the best example. And also I think once you start sliding and really go sideways, it sort of keeps going a long time. As if still some grip is lost when you're sliding, a bit more than you would imagine. See there, it's sort of the force feedback almost made it want to continue wiggle rather than point the wheels forwards. That's a bit bad. And I think it's quite hard to it's easy to drive, which is very good. I really enjoy, I spent hours doing this, which is far more than I did any sim. So it's kind of easy to drive, which is great. But I'm not so sure. I did a 54.9 and it was quite a messy lap. So I don't really know how to drive smoothly and fast. It's still something I must have done during that lap. That was very fast, but I was sliding quite a bit. And then other times I'm sliding and I'm slow. So it's just a couple of hours with the sim isn't enough to really get to the bottom of how that works, so I still have to spend more time with it. Getting slower every lap still. Curbs are very slippery as well. Not a critique, but just something you have to remember. My steering is a bit more like you see many videos of sim races catching opposite lock. It's a bit nervous. It's a bit like that, rather than being naturally occurring. And with my steering wheel, sim steering wheel, and rFactor, that just feels more direct and dependable to me, so it's easier for me to slide the cars in rFactor. But like I said, it's so early days and I really enjoy driving Assetto Corsa at the moment. I think the sound could be a lot more dynamic. This car sounds pretty good, but there's only a few decibels difference between this straight 200 something Ks and then low speed. That could be better. The graphics are awesome, I'm sure. Not so much on my system because I'm running 720p. Slight overcorrecting. I always overcorrect a little bit. It's a little numb of the center. No pedals on my wheel. No button boxes either. So sequential shifting. I'm making this car in rFactor privately, sadly. There isn't any good car around, good 3D model. So interesting to compare. Oh, on the grass. Oh, talking, driving and damaging a car. I always get a stutter when it loads the sample, the sound sample. Right, that was my least slow lap. Let's do another quick thing. 5 more minutes remaining. Can do just 2 laps perhaps. This is I got the default setup here, as far as I know. Right. Time for 1 hot lap. Ha! You know that pressure. How can that go wrong? On camera, time for 1 hot lap. Yeah, let's not count on a hot lap. Let's forget I said that, right? Talk and drives are taking a long time, Niels. I know. It's a good sign. It means the stuff that I'm playing is fun. No tendency to stop. And I don't care if nobody's watching anymore. That's a bit rude. Oh, it's not my Ferrari. So, in summary, it's just a couple of hours. Early days. I think it's promising. There were some issues which are in a mix of actual issues, I guess, and just me not being used to it or being wrong, and that's all very possible. But it's promising. I really enjoy it, and I think it's a good job. And like I said, I made this car for rFactor, and I'll probably do some sort of a video on that as well. Won't be a comparison, like for all the reasons I mentioned. Okay, I'm trying to do a quick lap now. I'm failing, probably. These things go great until turn 1, usually. Yeah, oh, sideways. Oh dear lord. Overdriving. Sorry. Should at least be a 55. Just 55.8. Well, it can be quicker, but at least I didn't suck. So, Assetto Corsa, promising as I blow an engine. Compliments to the guys there. I hope it develops at this rate. And I'll get more used to it and I'll do a comparison with rFactor at some point. Thanks for watching. I'll be back in a Lotus Turbo F1 car at Adelaide soon. Bye!